Hello, this is Dan Farisi, Editor-in-Chief with Commercial Integrator. So happy to be joined today by Sandi Stambaugh, Senior Vice President of Product Management at TD SYNNEX. So good to see you again, Sandi. I had a great time chatting at InfoComm, and it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Dan. Hope you're doing well.
Absolutely. So the topic of conversation, narrowly is commercial integrators 40 under 40, but I want to kind of zoom out from the 40 under 40 a bit and talk a little bit more about the idea of seeding the next generation, which I know is something that's very close to TD SYNNEX's heart. It's very close to your heart as well. So just to kind of set the stage, I want to get a sense of your optimism or your pessimism. Do you feel like the idea of seeding the next generation is finally getting as much attention as it deserves to get? It does seem like we're starting to see more people talking about things like internship programs, talking about things like school curriculum, other initiatives. Are you feeling optimistic? Do you feel like we're on a positive trajectory?
I think we're definitely on a positive trajectory, but I think that there's still a lot of work to do. But I definitely see the right strides being made in the industry overall. You're right, there's so many internship programs and STEM and STEAM programs and just investment in the younger generation, trying to get more of that technical expertise and overall support for our industry. So definitely positive on the trajectory for sure.
I feel the same way. It does seem like people are talking about it more. And much like, with issues like diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think the first step of actually making progress is to talk about what's going on. And you and I have been in the industry a number of different years, and we know that so many people say, oh, I just kind of fell into AV. It's not like I went out to say I want to be an AV integrator, or I want to be a commercial AV vendor or commercial AV distributor. You just kind of end up here. And it seems like it's almost existential over the long term to make people be more intentional about wanting to be part of our community, marketing our community as such. Do you agree?
I definitely agree. I think that you're absolutely right. Unless they knew someone or grew up in the business, certainly that's what we've seen. And so we just think that there's so much opportunity for diversity in thought and just overall kind of unique perspective by intentionally positioning with the younger generation, our industry, and it's such a great industry and such an amazing business to be a part of.
It really is. I count my lucky stars every day that I ended up in this industry, because I didn't have any AV background. I didn't have any IT background. I was simply a journalist. And I was one of those people who fell into AV. And I feel very fortunate to have done so. But I would love to be able to see more people be able to say, that's what I want to be. I want to be an AV integrator. I want to be an AV design consultant. I want to be a pro AV distributor. So let's turn to TD SYNNEX just for a moment. And obviously, TD SYNNEX and you personally, as I say, are very invested in supporting recruiting, supporting training, supporting retaining young men and women, bringing people into our industry. That's one of the reasons why TD SYNNEX is supporting the CI 40 under 40, because you're putting your money and your support where your mouth is. What do you do as an organization, as a distributor, to try to achieve that within your own ranks? Do you engage in certain initiatives to try to make sure that you are exhibiting best practices and bringing in fresh young talent?
Absolutely. I mean, it's extremely intentional, Dan. So, everything from some of that, charitable support that we give to some of the school districts around STEM and STEAM programs and robotics, to, our recruiting methods and going out to not just colleges, but also high schools, and engaging in the community to really encourage more, just again, more diversity in thought, more unique experiences, more, early adoption of or interest in our, the technologies that we represent. So there's a lot that we do there. Beyond that, we have a formalized internship program. So we have interns that support our business, both, really in every regional office that we have, in every role. And so, doing that on the front end, we support job fairs at a lot of the different colleges and the technical schools. And all of that is with the intention of recruiting young talent. We really feel that, bringing more and more young talent into our business helps us keep that fresh thought and fresh approach to the business, and drives, efficiencies and processes, and just, keeps us fresh and new in our approach to supporting the business.
Yeah, I mean, and the proof is in the pudding. You know, TD SYNNEX is well known for being an incredibly successful organization, and that constant infusion of fresh ideas and fresh blood and fresh perspectives, that's certainly not an incidental factor in it. That's a key part of it, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then beyond that, we're all about empowering growth of the professionals on our team. And so, as we recruit these younger people, as we have these interns join in, we also have a program where, as a new associate or a new coworker of TD SYNNEX, you have an opportunity to actually rotate through the department. So maybe you join the company, but you're not sure where you want to start. And so we have the ability to do that. We have a formalized program where, these coworkers come in and they rotate through marketing and sales and engineering and, customer service and a lot of different areas to figure out where their fit is. And then beyond that, we invest in professional development. So really wanting to invest back in them. And we feel like there's a lot of benefit to doing that.
So, yeah, I assume that, not every organization is quite as far along as TD SYNNEX is in terms of building out support and scaffolding to support the next generation. Would you offer any top line advice to other industry organizations, their human resources personnel, their recruiters, who are just kind of trying to find their way to begin this process? They might not have an internship program yet. They might not have strong community ties yet to provide a pipeline into their organization. Would you say that there's a starting point or any advice you might want to give to peers and competitors alike for ways to approach this effectively?
Yeah, I would just say, a couple of things. So, first of all, I think you have to be intentional. And taking a look at your workforce, understanding kind of what your practices are today, and where you're trying to strive, to achieve what you're trying to achieve, through your efforts. And then just look out into the community. There's so many opportunities to get involved. There's so many opportunities to give back. And through that, along with the passion you have for your business, I think they sort of are synergistic, right? They come alongside, you can come alongside those schools or those young people and that you come across, and through your own passion in your business, it sort of, provides a little bit of a spark. And then expanding beyond that, right? Around, maybe what you would have liked to have seen as you were coming up in the industry. What would have inspired you? What would have kept you going, and kept you engaged and inspired you to give back and do more within the industry? I think that there's, a lot of opportunity for that, but you've really got to stop and just be intentional, and I think also just engage.
Well, you had mentioned kind of professional development, and I think that's a really key part of stickiness to bring people into an organization, develop them professionally, and that's going to not only bind them to the industry, it's also going to bind them to the organization, perhaps, because they feel like they're being invested in. They're not just a cog in a machine. They're actually viewed as kind of a precious resource, and you're trying to drive up the value of that resource by investing in those people. But I also have heard the other side of the equation, which is that, if I invest in someone for CTS prep, if I invest in someone as far as tuition reimbursement, what if at the conclusion of that, they then walk to my competitor or go somewhere else? Is there a way to square that circle from your point of view, Sandi, that the idea that companies may not want to proactively invest because they're afraid their team members are going to flee, but at the same time, what is the other option? You want to keep untrained team members? It doesn't make a lot of sense. What's your perspective on it?
Yeah, I think it comes down to trust a little bit. I think that, you kind of get what you give, I think, in all relationships. And, I do understand it, right? And I've certainly had, many conversations as we also invest in the training of, our coworkers and the certifications and, the hours and trips and, those types of things. And I've had conversations with many of our, the owners of some of the companies that we deal with, right? Same thing. It's, how do you balance that investment with the return that you're expecting to get? But I do think that, if you feed into people, generally speaking, if you feed into people, they're going to give back. And, what we've found is that those that we have supported and invested in and put on a path to success, we've received tenfold that back into our business through ideas and, new, again, process efficiencies, excellence within their overall, but then they are also the first to turn around and give back to the new up and comers behind them, right? And so they're really kind of pulling along others within the industry. The other benefit that we've seen is that, they tend to, enjoy what they're doing. They tend to appreciate that. And very often those are our number one recruiters going forward, right? Through referrals into our organization. I think it's like anything else in life, giving to others. You don't necessarily give to get, but I find very often you're getting way more than you give in the end.
I think that that's very true. And, maybe I'm just an eternal optimist, but I don't think there are a whole lot of people out there who are looking to simply get their certification, get their training kind of at a company's expense and then haul somewhere else. I don't think that's really the case. I think most times if people leave an organization, it's because they don't feel supported. They don't feel like they're aligned with that organization. It's not some kind of a scheme. The question really might be from the company's perspective, what did I not do to keep that person in my fold? And I think when you think about a company like TD SYNNEX, which does very much invest in its team members, and then, as you say, gets back tenfold the investment, the question is, for these companies that do not achieve that, what is it about their company DNA or their company approach that perhaps is not giving them the stickiness that they should be getting?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that like with any relationship, that intimacy and that transparency is really important. And trying to understand, what can we do better? What can we do better to make this a culture that holds on to and retains young people, that holds on to talent, that, is elevated. So I think it's a really just important part of of being a leader within an organization is kind of, being open with yourself and where we can improve.
I think that that's absolutely true. Just to kind of close out this interview, I want to talk about a couple of things we've kind of touched on already, which is intentionality, which has kind of been the key word of this conversation so far, and also culture. I think that, and let me know if you disagree, I think today's generation, those graduating from high school, those graduating from college, technical schools, are very intentional in their actions. They want to work for diverse organizations. They want to work for companies that reflect their core values. They want to feel some resonance. They don't simply want to clock in, clock out, get a paycheck, and they don't care for whom they work. I think that those days are over. What would you say your thoughts are on how companies can balance their own culture, their established company DNA, with the need to, at least to some extent, reflect the value of their young team, the values rather of their young team members? I don't think people come to an organization these days and say, well, I'm just going to adopt this company culture regardless of how it resonates or doesn't resonate with me. But at the same time, the entire company DNA can't change on a dime. Is there a way to resolve that?
I think it's by allowing people to have a voice and allowing people to lead, various initiatives, right? Let them kind of help guide, and create the culture that they want within their organization. So I'll give you an example. So at TD SYNNEX, we have business resource groups, and it's an opportunity for our coworkers to align with others that share the same passion around any, topic. It's a status, it's a passion, it's, and it's led by our coworkers. They decide how they're going to engage. If there's a holiday that they want to celebrate, they decide what that's going to look like and how they impact, how they come together to support that initiative or that group of of individuals. Another area is giving back together as a group. It's pretty amazing what you can accomplish through that. And so I think that, I think that coworkers will tell you, people will tell you, your associates will tell you what's important to them if you listen. And then creating an environment where, yes, you're coming together to work, but you're also coming together to do more for others. I think that really goes a long way with creating a culture where people want to stay.
I think that is absolutely true. And it really does seem to me like this younger generation is very philanthropy minded, very society minded. They want to leave the world a better place than they found it. I think that's a laudable thing. I think that's something worth celebrating. And I agree with you that those kind of, whether it's like a company volunteerism day or other kinds of organizational activities that lean into philanthropy and lean into doing good, they not only help society and help the community, which of course are paramount, but they also do, I think, build goodwill among and within the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Sandi, for providing some insights on the idea of how to attract the next generation of talent, nurture the next generation of talent, keep them in our fold. And also thank you for, TD SYNNEX for supporting the 40 under 40, which is just one more way that your organization is trying to celebrate the young talent in our industry, the women and men who are going to be tomorrow's superstars. So I appreciate the time investment and I appreciate the support.
Thanks for the opportunity, Dan. We really appreciate you guys for sure.
So happy to have been joined by Sandi Stambaugh, who is Senior Vice President of Product Management with TD SYNNEX. My name is Dan Farisi, Editor-in-Chief with Commercial Integrator. Please check on commercialintegrator.com throughout the month of August as we celebrate the 40 under 40. And then we'll do a big splashy feature in the September print issue, showcasing all 40 women and men across ethnic diversity, language, religious backgrounds, all of whom are making meaningful contributions to commercial AV. Once again, thank you to TD SYNNEX, both for being here, you, Sandi, as well as for supporting organizationally the 40 under 40.